TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it's that time of the week for Tea Time Wagers with good friend and colleague, Mr. Brady Kannon. Go follow him on the Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it, at Las Vegas Golfer, and of course, catch him throughout the week on the Sports Grid. Hi, the headliner, can JTM or Burns win at the AMEX at La Quinta, California PGA? A couple of the favorites there, so I thought I'd start with that. Of course, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play, download that app. It is free. Viva Tequila Seltzer. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. And of course, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood. Head on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself to Terry Smith. While you're there, jump on over to atlantasteaksandseafood.com. Use the promo code STEAKS10 and get 10% off your full order. Without further ado, Mr. Brady Kannon.
Mr. Dawson, how are you? Good to be with you again on a Wednesday, talking a little golf. And I tell you, Wednesday mornings now, we're fresh off this TGL stuff. On Tuesday night, Tiger makes his debut last night, and I was a little late to the party. Week 1 came on at 6 p.m. Pacific. Week 2 started at 4 p.m. Pacific. And so I missed the boat there. I was on Sports Grid, and they were asking me a little bit about it, what I wanted to do as far as a bet. And I looked at my phone, and it was already off the board. But my answer was going to be bet against Tiger, because we know the whole world will be on Tiger. And sure enough, it was a blowout for the second week in a row, but looks like they had an awful lot of fun. The one little clip that has gone viral this morning is Kevin Kistner shanking one out of the bunker.
Oh my God, it came out of the bunker, hits the pin, flies to the left. Tiger Woods you could hear him laughing and laughing. The other viral was, I guess, Tiger maybe on a par 3 or something, or I don't know exactly the whole, landed in the water, and Charlie sitting in the back just laughing like, Dad, what the hell are you doing? So I too was late to the party. I was doing some late work, and I had someone reach out. He goes, who do you got this week in the golf? And I kind of thought of this as you did. I would get done with the work and then go enjoy the golf. And it was the early start. But the intro to Tiger, I saw it, via tape delay, and still got the goosebumps. It's good to see him out there mucking it up with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder now, I guess you and I both, we didn't get the full show. I saw some people kind of, taking a negative stance that this is the beginning of the end. I don't know. I was able to catch just about the entire show of episode 1. I thought it was very cool. Unfortunately, I missed a lot of 2. I caught the very end. It was another blowout, but I don't know if, obviously you want some drama with the score and some tension there in the competition. But I don't know if it's all about that. It seems like it's the crowd. They're having fun. The guys are having fun. The spectacle, the phenomenon of this technology, that was what was really intriguing to me. And I wonder what the truth is. Has it been good results through the first 2 weeks, or has it underachieved? I'm not sure, and I wonder what your thoughts are.
Well, I think I asked you the same question in a different way last week, and I think you put it perfectly. Hey, Jeff, it's the middle of winter. Go look out your door. There's snow back east. It's 25 degrees, yet we're watching golf where the game has actually gone to simulators. We talk about Top Golf. I think it's a great idea. I think it really is for the avid golf fan. As you said backstage, football's winding down. Okay. Now, if you're not a college basketball enthusiast, what else are you going to watch if you're looking for sports? So I love the idea. I thought week one was phenomenal. But like the XFL, the USFL, where the ratings are through the roof the first week, by week three, it's just an afterthought for most people. I hope this doesn't go that way.
Yeah, and I think they've done a good job where they introduce it, and then in week 2 they bring on Tiger, and then in week 3 they're going to bring on Rory. I'm going to make sure, I'm going to try and make a point to not miss any part of week 3 because I do want to just get a feel. I liked it. I enjoyed watching it. And I do want to kind of get a feel for what the general buzz is about this new product because I really hope it takes off. I think it's a great show. I think it's exciting, and ultimately, I think it's great for the game of golf. Now, again, it starts next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. So I thought they were all starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, and I didn't know there was a time change. And it was about 6:15 Pacific out here, and I said, "Oh yeah, let's turn it on." And I caught the last 5 minutes of the darn thing. So anyway, I'll be prepared next week.
I have to ask you this question. My dad, growing up, Jack Nicklaus, then to, let's say, Greg Norman. And locally, Greg would come down once a year to the Willow Bend. There was a Pro-Am tournament sponsored by Reebok. He'd fly in on his helicopter, big athletes. I caddied Tim Wakefield twice, Emmett Smiths of the world, Roger Clemens. Fun day. Greg went on to building golf courses, designing golf courses, and then a part of Live. Some of the golfers, when they get to that age, they're ready for the senior tour. If I asked you, and you have the crystal ball, what do you expect Tiger Woods in regards to, we want to see him at the Masters. We'd like to see him at the majors. Is it going to be designing courses, or is it going to be through the eyes of Charlie? What do you expect for the future of Tiger Woods?
Well, I think there's going to be a lot to do with Charlie for sure. And just supporting him and kind of being his right-hand man and guiding him through, the process of eventually getting on the PGA Tour and doing all the right things that, of course, Tiger went through, many years ago and knows the ropes and that type of thing. I think that'll be a very big part of his life. I do think he'll compete some on the senior tour. He's good friends with Fred Couples, and Couples kind of gets out there, when he can, still dealing with some back issues that he really has his entire career. But, Freddie never misses a Masters and makes it for at least typically the majors on the senior circuit. And I think Tiger will want to compete in that as well. I don't see him doing it full time. I think he's going to be involved in golf course design. He's certainly done a few of those already. We've got one that is present on the PGA Tour. What is it? El Cardinal at Diamante, where they play during the fall swing. So I would say all of the above. Some design, certainly, a large emphasis on Charlie. And I think he'll dabble in the champion circuit as well. I don't think Tiger can be without competition. And if he's able to play in a field or a market, if you will, where he can possibly win, I think he's going to do that. I think he's not dumb. He's understanding that his days of winning on the PGA Tour are very few and far between. Maybe he's got one or two more chances left. And it's probably all at Augusta. He could probably get a special invite to just about any tournament wherever he wanted to tee it up. But Augusta's probably the one place I'm thinking where he might have the best chance. As weird as that sounds, winning the Masters is probably your best chance to win a tournament. But because he knows the place so well, it may be truly where he has the best chance. My bet, Jeff, is I don't think he's going to get another win on the PGA Tour, wherever it's at. But again, I think, part of his life going forward with the design, his son, and some sort of competition, I think that competition will probably be a few stops on the Champions Tour. Yes.
I sign me up for all the above, Brady. Sign me up for all the above. Last year, this time of year, we're scratching our heads. If you're not 100 to 1, 200 to 1, 300 to 1, 400 to 1, these bombs were coming from all left field winning these tournaments.
Right.
Matsuyama, one of the favorites 2 weeks ago. Nick Dunlop, correct me if I'm wrong, Alabama, right? Went to Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Has now won not one, not two, but 3 tournaments. I think he closed it like 110 to 1 at some of the shops last weekend. Miraculous chip in for Eagle.
No, that was Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah, Dunlap has won twice on tour.
Okay.
But Taylor's another, miracle story from Canada. Won the waste management at Phoenix last year, held off Charlie Hoffman, Sahith Theegala, and that guy Scotty Scheffler, I think is his name. And then comes out. I mean, I tell you, he was triple digits last week, 110 to 1. That is one of the luckiest wins I've ever seen, Jeff. He was being projected as like a 4% chance of winning with like 3 holes left to go. I think in the live market, he was around 400 to 1. And he missed a couple of birdie opportunities late in the game and then chips in on the 18th hole from like 60 feet away to get into a playoff. And you knew he was going to win the playoff at that point because he had so much momentum riding from that chip in. And Echevarria, I was like, this guy's done. He doesn't have a shot. We had Harry Hall, and he was there for a minute. Looked like he had a chance. Could never quite find the groove. But yeah, I mean, Nick Taylor, I want to say he was like 6 shots off the pace after the first 9 holes or something. And I think he himself admitted that he thought he was done. And boy, yeah, it kind of ticked me off because, here this guy comes, out of nowhere, beyond lucky, and Harry Hall can't, get out of second gear. And I'm going, Jesus. But hey, we got to win in Hawaii. We'll take 50% the rest of our life, right? So
1,000%.
Move on to the West Coast swing, and we'll see if we can get a couple here.
Yeah, so we leave Hawaii, and I assume a few of the golfers would rather stay in Hawaii. But we're in La Quinta, California, the AMEX this week. My headliner, again, we're a couple of guys on the top of the board. JT, M, Burns. Initial thoughts now, you come from a beautiful 2-3 week stay in Hawaii. Now you're back in the States, California. I don't know exactly how far this course is, obviously, to what has been going on in California, LA, and the wildfires. Is that any problem for this tournament?
I don't think so at all. I've actually never been to Palm Springs. I grew up, I'm a California native, spent about the first 25 years of my life in California, went to college. I grew up in Northern California, went to college in San Diego. My daughter lived in LA for a while, and I've been down there a few times, but I've actually never made it to Palm Desert, Palm Springs, La Quinta, what have you. But my understanding is I believe it's a couple hours outside of LA. It's where they have, the big concert these days, Coachella. It's right in that area. But I believe a couple hours outside of LA, hour and a half, something in that neighborhood. But no real, proximity to the fires and that stuff that's going on. That's the concern is the Genesis Invitational, which is coming up in about 5 or 6 weeks at Riviera Country Club. Miraculously, Riviera Country Club right in Pacific Palisades has somehow avoided the fire. And apparently the clubhouse, the golf course, everything is just fine. Knock on wood here, that is not entirely contained. The Palisades fire, I guess, is the one that is still going pretty good. They're making progress every day now, thank goodness. But I believe that is the one that is still, the biggest hurdle to get over is the Palisades fire. But as of now, Riviera is just fine. The problem is everything surrounding Riviera. And that's one of my favorite tournaments of the year, on my bucket list of golf courses to try and get on someday. But as far as the infrastructure around town, I don't know how they're going to hold a PGA Tour event there, Jeff, in 6 weeks. I don't think you can move the venue because Riviera and the LA Open, the Genesis, whatever you want to call it, is so iconic. You can't hold this thing at, TPC River Highlands or something like that and call it the Genesis. I have a feeling, my bet would be that they're just going to cancel that tournament this year. But no threat here in Palm Springs. You mentioned coming from beautiful Hawaii, where we had two pretty predictive tournaments, two of the more predictable tournaments of the entire year, the Sony Open and the Sentry at Kapalua. Now we go to the absolute other side of the spectrum, where it's a royal crapshoot. 4 out of the last 6 winners have gone off at triple-digit prices, and now is where we want to talk about Nick Dunlap, an amateur who won last year at 500 to 1. Some places it was even higher, closer to 1,000 to 1. The first amateur to win on the PGA Tour in 33 years. There's just no rhyme or reason to who wins this thing. Now, we've seen John Rahm win it a couple times. Outside of that, it is so random. I mean, Adam Long, you may remember when he chased down Phil Mickelson at 500 to 1 or whatever he was. Adam Hadwin has been very good at this golf course, but has never won it. Andrew Landry has won here. Hudson Swafford, of all people, has won it twice. I mean, if you can find a guy that's 300 to 1 or better and ranks about 150th in the world, there's your winner at the American Express.
Brian Gaskell says, good luck this week, Jets. Sharpen your pencils and darts. Gonna be a tough week. And
Yeah.
As you just stated, I will give you the T-box, your correlated courses, how the hell the mad scientist came up with anything this week. God bless you, Brady.
Yeah, it's and let me, public service announcement here. I would absolutely dumb down the risk this week. I was thinking about this earlier this week. I think I've been close over the course of my, 2.5 decades of betting golf. I think I've been close to having a winner at every PGA Tour stop at some point. And maybe I've got half of them. Maybe I've got 75%. I don't know for sure. I'd have to look through it and see how many I have. And certainly the ones that I've not had a winner, I've been close. Maybe I've gotten a guy to a playoff, or certainly had a top 5 finish or something like that, or a runner-up. I don't even ever remember being close at the American Express. I mean, this one is hard. They play 3 different courses, okay? There's no shot link data at 2 out of the 3 courses, so you're only getting kind of 50% of the stats, that you can kind of peruse through and see what matters here. It's a pro-am, so there's that weird element where you got to play with an amateur for 3 days. It's just a tough nut to crack. But you dive in and you do your research, and it's pretty straightforward. The courses are very easy. They're very short. They all measure between 7,000 and 7,200 yards. There's really no rough to speak of. The fairways are relatively wide. The greens are very receptive. Because it's a pro-am, Jeff. The pin positions are going to be very benign. They can't make these courses too tough because you've got, the CEO of XYZ company playing out there with all these guys, and you can't beat him up and watch him shoot 100. So they've got to keep these courses relatively easy. And the guys, it's a birdie fest. It becomes, I think, driving distance outweighs driving accuracy. It's a lot about iron play. You got to stuff your approach shots in there. You got to be good with the wedges. And then, like any birdie fest, you got to find a hot putter. And that's pretty much what it boils down to. Be really sharp, tee to green, and get hot for a few days with the putter. It's kind of that simple. And as far as the correlated courses, I looked at courses that emphasize distance and iron play, and coupled with finding a hot putter, and really not much challenge around the greens. This is one of the few weeks that I did not use scrambling as a skill set, because it just doesn't pop here as something that's difficult around any of these courses. You have the Pete Dye Stadium course where they will play 2 of the 4 rounds. That's where they play the final round on Sunday. And then, the guys will rotate and play that at least once, Thursday through Saturday. The other 2 that they will play once will be the Nicholas Tournament course and La Quinta Country Club. And they all kind of, set up similarly. Again, be able to hit it long and straight, be able to stuff your irons in there and get hot with a putter. And courses that are very similar to that are right here in Las Vegas. And it is kind of interesting that they're also desert courses. TPC Summerlin, where they play the Shriners, TPC Scottsdale in the other desert in Phoenix, Scottsdale area, Valhalla Country Club, where we saw the PGA. You remember, it wasn't very difficult around the greens, and it was about stuffing your irons in there and being able to hit it long. And another Nicklaus course, and we are playing a Nicklaus course this week as well. Corrales, where they play the Corrales Punta Cana, one of kind of the off alternate events during the year, and then also Silverado up in Napa. So those were the courses I landed on that made some sense, and ended up going with Kurt Kitayama at 30-1. And, this guy has shown a prowess for desert style golf, a former UNLV Rebel golfer. I think he still lives here in Las Vegas. He's had top 10 finishes at both TPC Summerlin and TPC Scottsdale. This is another interesting note, Jeff. 15 out of the last 17 winners of the American Express have spent at least 1 week and oftentimes 2 in Hawaii. So I love the little warm up. Instead of making this your first start of the year, get a few competitive rounds under your belt in Hawaii. And that has translated into success here at the American Express, 15 out of the last 17 years. So every guy I selected this week had spent some time in Hawaii previously, and Kitayama shot 3 out of the 4 rounds in the 60s last week, ended up finishing 37th at the Sony. Last 24 rounds, he ranked 6th in this field for strokes gained approach, and he's 3rd for strokes gained on the par 5s. Again, if he can find a hot putter this week, I think he's in contention, and he wasn't bad with the putter last week, gained nearly a stroke on the field last week at the Sony. And then I went with Tom Kim, got Kitayama at 30-1, Tom Kim at 31-1. And I thought it was odd. You may remember, Jeff, a lot of people were really high on Tom Kim last week going into the Sony. And all of a sudden this week, it's like he doesn't exist. I'm like, what happened to Tom Kim? This guy's pretty good. And I think he's maybe sticks out more so in the field this week than he did last week. As one of the guys that, is a better player in this field. Now, I know you've got JT and Burnsy and, but I just don't know why people got off Tom Kim so quickly. So I'm happy to jump on at 31. This guy finished 6th here at the American Express in 2023. He has been a back-to-back winner, you probably recall, right here in Las Vegas at TPC Summerlin, one of our correlated courses. He's got a top 20 finish at TPC Scottsdale, finished 26th last year at Valhalla at the PGA Championship. He's 5th in this field for strokes gained approach over the last 24 rounds. And very similar to Kitayama, if he finds a hot putter this week, I think he's another guy that's absolutely going to be in contention. And then this one worries me because he's getting awful popular. I almost landed on him last week. And I've seen this guy's name for throughout last season. It was his first full season on tour. I've noticed him on some leaderboards. He made sense to me last week. I ultimately stayed off. And then this week came around and I said, this is a guy I'm going to look at. And now all of a sudden, everybody else has taken notice as well. And that's Mac Meisner. Young kid out of, I want to say it's North Carolina area from the South. I can't recall exactly, but played well last week, finished 21st at the Sony, fourth in this field. So I've got Kitayama at sixth in this field, Tom Kim at fifth, and Meissner at fourth in this field over the last 24 rounds for strokes gained approach. So heavy on the iron play here. He's really good with the wedges. He drives it both long and straight. So that recipe's all there. And he actually putts pretty decent as well. Pretty, maybe an above average or an average, better than average putter, if you will. Missed the cut in his first go around here at the Amex last year. But I like the fact that he's got that experience under his belt of knowing this 3-course rotation, knowing the Pro-Am format. And also, I mentioned the iron play. He actually was second in the field last week at the Sony for strokes gained approach. So the irons seem to be really good for Mac Meissner right now. And again, we'll see if he can find a hot putter for a few days. Jonathan Vegas at 90-1. Kind of under the radar, but this guy finished fourth at the Century at Kapalua a couple weeks ago. And oh, by the way back in 2011, his first win on tour was the Bob Hope Desert Classic, which is now the American Express. So Johnny Vegas makes some sense. This guy racked up his fourth win on tour in his career last summer at the 3M Open. He's finished as high as 11th ever since winning that one in 2011. He's also followed that up with an 11th place finish here at the American Express. Has top 10s at both Silverado and Scottsdale. Has as high as a 4th place finish at Corrales Punta Cana. This guy's, signature of his game has always been driving it long and straight. And again, I'll go back to the theme. If he can find a hot putter, he ought to be there once again. And then I went really deep. I mean, I had Kitayama at 30, Kim at 31, and then Meissner was 80, Vegas was 90, and now I'm into the triple digits. You just have to throw some long bomb darts this week. Henrik Norlander. Have never bet the guy outright in my life. Again, he crossed my radar, in these birdie fests, these watered down field events. He seems to show up. He did very well last week, exactly like Kitayama, shot 3 out of the 4 rounds in the 60s and finished 37th. He's deadly accurate off the tee. Last year on the PGA Tour, he ranked 11th for strokes gained approach. So, hit it straight right down the middle of the fairway and dial in the irons. And again, find a hot putter here. He's finished as high as 12th at the American Express in the past and also has top 25 finishes at both Corrales and TPC Scottsdale. So, you never know. Nick Dunlap, Hudson Swafford, Adam Long, why not Henrik Norlander? And then Matty Schmid at 190-1, the German. He can really bang it off the tee. He makes a bunch of birdies, and you know what? He can actually putt. He was 46th on tour last year in strokes gained putting. He tied for 6th along with Tom Kim 2 years ago in 2023 at this very same tournament. And I like the form coming in. He just this past October up in St. George, Utah, the Black Desert Championship on, the first ever showing on the PGA Tour. He finished 5th up there. Rolled that over, comes down to Vegas the next week and finished 3rd at TPC Summerlin. And then earlier that year, back in April, finished 11th at Corrales. So, he makes sense as far as good form, the correlated courses. I think the skill set makes sense. And I just thought 190-1 was way too high of a price on a guy that has this much talent and seems to, has finished 6th here at the Amex in the past and has showed well at some of the courses we're looking at as far as corollaries as well this week. So I thought 190-1 was a pretty good bargain. That's the 6-pack for you. Kitayama, Kim, Meissner, Vegas, Norlander, and Schmid.
I love where your eyes are. I love the dart throws. I raised my hand with Johnny Vegas. I had him in diapers, and he was a one that I got lucky. I always used to correlate first round leader with Johnny Vegas because you knew right away if he'd get out to that -6, -7, -8, be on top of the leaderboard. And then a lot of times back in my racing days, the old flash and fade, had that one good round and then nowhere to be found. So I'm a big Vegas guy. I will be diving in on this 6-pack here. As you said, it is one of those, as you said to me on the email, let's dummy it down. No top 20s, no head-to-head matches.
Yeah.
It's kind of survive in advance this week, Brady.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if I have a full unit in play. I've basically taken, I want to say about 3/4 of a unit or so. I'd have to add it all up and spread it across 6 guys. Takes, do the handicap, do the work, try and make smart decisions and see if we can get lucky. And there's a lot of luck in picking an outright no matter where you are. But this is a tournament that might be more unpredictable in my mind than any other stop we see on tour all year.
Next week, where are they next week?
Next week, big boy territory. Torrey Pines in La Jolla, California. A couple U.S. Opens to its credit. Tiger a winner. I believe it was 2008. John Rahm a winner. And I think what was 2021. I was on Rahm for that one. I've played the course half a dozen times when I was going to college down there. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, Jeff, but this is a pretty good one. I was a student at University of San Diego, the Fighting Toreros, and after 2:30 in the afternoon, I wish I would have taken advantage of it more often. I think I played maybe 4 to 6 times. After 2:30 in the afternoon, as a resident and a student, we could walk Torrey Pines for $7.
Oh my goodness.
$7. If you wanted a pull card, it might cost you 10. But those were the days. So yeah, looking forward to getting to Torrey Pines. And this is kind of where the regular season begins for me. I like to use Hawaii and the American Express as a little bit of a preseason to get a feel for who's in good form. This is always where Tiger used to start his season. That's not happening anymore. Mickelson, all the big boys. You don't get as many big boys that show up here at Torrey Pines as you used to in the past. I think they tend to show up the following week at Pebble Beach for what is now a signature event. I imagine Scotty will be back for that. He was supposed to be here at the AMEX, but the hand quite not fully healed from that injury he suffered over Christmas just yet. But it'll be the real deal at Torrey Pines, extremely difficult golf course, and that'll separate the men from the boys, I'm sure.
Scroller's been going the whole time. Everyone watching here on social media, on Twitter, knows where to follow you on X at Las Vegas Golfer. But as we always wrap up this segment, Brady, tell them where they can find your written work and, of course, where they can catch you and what time on the Sports Grid.
Yeah, everything I do, of course, on Twitter at Las Vegas Golfer. The article's up at golf.com. It's also on my timeline on Twitter. You can get further into the weeds with the details on the 6 selections for this week. I'll be on Sports Grid later tonight, going over some NFL football and some golf, of course, for the American Express at 7:30 Eastern, and then again at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time. And then, of course, over the weekend, maybe with you, Mr. Dawson, Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern is when we begin the show, myself and Adam Kaufman on Sports Grid.
Brady, have an amazing day. Look forward to watching you tonight on the Sports Grid and hope to catch up with you and Adam on Saturday. Thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank you, my friend.
Elijah, quick commercial break. When we come back, Mr. Tyler Wyatt himself. Stay tuned.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
Well, it's that time. I'm going to ask Tyler, first question right off the rip. Who was the bigger bonehead? Sock on first and goal from the 1 with the pitch play, or Mr. Drew Allard with just don't throw an interception? Worst case scenario, we get to overtime. Let's bring him in. Mr. Tyler Wyatt. What's up,
going on, JD?
It's easy to be Monday morning quarterback. 2 great games. Texas first and goal from the 1 for the tie. Penn State with the ball, 47 seconds, 3 timeouts. And I said on a prior show, this isn't Tom Brady versus the Rams back in '01 or whenever that was, with Madden saying, Tom, what are you doing here? Let's get this to overtime. Who was the bigger bonehead? Sark with the pitch or Allen with the interception?
I hate to throw Aller under the bus, but I'm not going to, because Sark it's not even close in my opinion. That was a bad throw. Aller's going to think about that one for a long time. He's going to catch a lot of grief in and around, Penn State. But you have, and I understand coaches are hesitant to make a change at quarterback in the middle of a game, in the middle of a drive, disruptive flow. You could have ran the quarterback sneak with Quinn Ewers 4 times and got this. But Arch Manning, I would bet and liquidate everything that I own. I would gather all of my friends and have them put up everything they own, and would bet that Texas gets in the end zone there with at least 4 Arch Manning under center rushes. It was just, I don't understand. He has been labeled an offensive genius for much of his career, and rightfully so. The guy, for the most part, can draw up a game plan that will put up points and will put up yards. Sometimes these guys are so smart that they totally avoid the thing that is the common sense thing that is staring right at you, and they try to come up with this gimmicky play to get in the end zone from the 1 yard. We saw this in the NFL at the biggest stage with the Seahawks, maybe even a larger mistake. I was on the receiving end of that. I'm very thankful. I should send Pete Carroll a gift every Christmas, because it was a very, very large 5-figure swing in my favor. But this was as bad a coaching malpractice. And this was a semifinal game. It's not a national championship game, but the Super Bowl, I think, probably the top of the mountain there. But this, the Sark decision to run wide there, I don't understand. I don't understand when you need to get a yard, you line up in the Wildcat or you line up in shotgun, you line up in that. I understand that run pass option, the RPO or modified hybrid, whatever you want to call, of that offense has just taken over football in the last 10 years. Old school. I would have loved to have watched the game with someone in their 70s who coached for their entire life, because the reaction would have been priceless. It was just an awful mistake by Sark. I think, or at least hope, that he has thought about it since then, probably nonstop. But yeah, the Sark decision easily trumps the one on Aller there. That was it's a kid, just makes a mistake. He admitted he was trying to throw it there, in the dirt. Obviously, he could have thrown it a dozen other places, and Penn State, would have still had a chance there. You hate to see a kid have to take one there, but a testament to Aller in the post game. He owned up to it. He took it, like a man. Love to see that. And I think going forward should ultimately help him. But yeah, it's a big setback there for Penn State, on the verge of, a championship appearance for the first time in forever. A good friend of ours, mutual friend Dave Sherapan, tears there at the end of that one. And that one was painful. They were the better team for most of that game. Maybe not the better team. Probably misspoke there. Notre Dame, equal opponent there. But that's just a football mistake that there are several that are made throughout the course of the game. When it's in the fourth quarter there, late drive, obviously it's magnified. You feel for the kid, and you feel for Penn State fans. Ohio State, Notre Dame. I think if you're the script writers, you're pretty happy with that matchup. 2 powerhouse names in college football history. A team in Notre Dame that has, semi-recent history, been there, but not a ton of success with Brian Kelly there. Ohio State, Ryan Day can really do a lot of things for his future. Probably already done that. Ohio State fans still very upset about Michigan, but win over Notre Dame and completely forget about, the loss to the team up north.
Well, true story. I used to host the Super Bowl party. We'd have 25, 30 people come, big spread, the whole 9 yards, halftime giveaways, the whole 9 yards. Well, of course, during the 2-decade runs of the Patriots. And I'm sitting in my recliner, and my good friend and accountant is next to me. And let's just say I'll say it out loud. I had 2,500 on the Seahawks money line, and my accountant had a nice chunk on the Seahawks money line. And whenever he threw the interception, you saw 28 people jump up like, "Oh my God!" And me and my friend are sitting there like, "What did I just say?" I still can't
Yeah.
believe he threw the
The
ball.
game was over. The game was over. Marshawn Lynch, 1 yard? Are you kidding me? You hand it to 4th and 3 there. I hand it to Marshawn Lynch. He's going to find a way to get 3.5 yards to get into the end zone, much less, just under 3 feet. That one, yes, I was lucky. I'd walked out of the room. I was watching it, and at the Gold Strike in Tunica, Mississippi, outside of the poker room, there's a sports bar. I walked and was headed towards the bathroom, and I hear this uproar. And I'm just assuming that the Seahawks fans that are in the casino are happy. This is before sports betting legalization in Mississippi. So, this is back when everyone was on the phone at the poker table trying to get a bet in. And I just assumed that it's a loser. I turn around and look, and this was, there were no large TVs at this point. I'm looking to find a 27-inch glass TV somewhere, or maybe the first flat screen ever, and see it. I'm like, what happened? And then eventually they show the replay, obviously. And I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. Either Pete Carroll had 7 figures on the game, or it's the only logical explanation. You have, a running back who, for the last 2 years prior to that Super Bowl game, probably average over 4.5 yards a carry. And you have 1 yard. That's it didn't make any sense. The Sark decision, pretty close to that one, maybe not as bad, but I just don't. Yeah, sometimes keeping it simple is the way that you should go. I understand everyone wants to be fancy and do things their own way, and they want to live and die by that script. Well, he's at least attempting to do that.
I was sitting there watching the game. This will be the final take, and we'll get into the X's and O's and your thoughts on the championship game here. Patriots sitting with the 4 spot. And of course, Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, Travis Hunter. And it's like when I'm getting ready for high stakes fantasy football, my draft periods, and I don't want to see anyone do anything spectacular because I got some hidden gems, Tyler. And I'm just sitting here because I know who the Patriots have circled at number 4, and that's Abdul Carter. And the guy had one arm. He looked like Lawrence Taylor, Micah Parsons, whatever you want to call him. Of those 2 games, the one guy stalked it. Now, they're talking he could go 1. What'd you think of the performance of Mr. Abdul Carter?
Oh, his generational talent, I think, is safe to say, at least for him. If he stays injury-free, guy should have an all-pro career, be a Pro Bowler, probably perennially. Maybe that's, it's easy to get out ahead of guys like that. But he is one of the most talented players at his position that we've seen in a long time. Rightfully, deserved to be in the conversation of being in the top 5. You could make a case that he probably deserves to be number 1 over, it's the quarterbacks are the easy pick at 1 and 2, and teams, now more than ever have been quick to take a quarterback and throw him in and see what happens. Carter is a guy that, if he stays healthy, is going to start. I think he's probably a day 1 starter. I've shied away from the daily grind of NFL because of losing edge over time. But from just what I've seen, talent-wise, the kid is as good as anyone that we've seen in a long time. And the Patriots hire there with Vrabel. I think, defense will probably come first there. Offense, I would be lying if I said that I've watched every single Patriots game this year. I've watched enough. Drake May has a lot of good qualities at quarterback. There are a lot of issues on that offensive line. There are a ton of issues, over that spread across that field. Defensively, they have been pretty good. But if you can get a guy like Carter, you take him. You take the best player available at the position. And if he's there at 4, 100%. I'm taking him every single time. We can get a quarterback in the second. We can trade. We can do all kinds of things later. If Carter's there at 4, you take him. I'm not sure. Maybe he goes to 4. I haven't seen updated mock on where they have him, at least in the over under position wise. If he's available at 4 and I'm Mike Vrabel, it's a very easy, simple decision. Don't need to be on the clock. That's an easy one.
Yeah, there's no Penei Sewell. There's none of that in this draft. And by default now, because of the performance Carter put on and the quarterback hungry guys at 1 and 2, you might get a Travis Hunter. I don't want the sideshow. I would love, though, to position him on one side and then Christian Gonzalez on the other side. Now you're cooking with Crisco. I know he'll want to do some wide receiver play. I get all that, but the Carter and Vrabel combination makes way, way, way too much sense there. Ohio State, Notre Dame, the whole world's on Ohio State. Number shot to the moon. It's now leaking a little oil here. Notre Dame got, I'm going to say, bullied in the first half. I really think they did. I think Penn State could run the ball. They could do whatever they want. The scoreboard didn't indicate that, but the halftime adjustments Freeman made, they score on their first 2 possessions. I'd like to say Notre Dame's a live dog. Which Ohio State team gets out there? I just don't think Notre Dame has enough weapons on both sides of the end. I think there'll be a competitive game. I love the Freeman story. I love Jeremiah Love. From an X's and O's and a numbers standpoint, where do you have this game? You got anything in the pocket already?
Yeah, I took the dog. Ohio State has just made mincemeat of everyone in the playoffs. I've got a projected number 6.1, projected total of 48.7. So I'm significantly under the side there. You mentioned Love. That was a key addition for Notre Dame and for Freeman. To get him back, I think it took some pressure off of Leonard. And it seemed like when he was at his best, he didn't look necessarily to run second. Now that Love has been back and he realizes that he doesn't have to run the ball quite as often, he's a very, very good runner. He is a fantastic. He's not an overly fast guy or shifty. He's tough. He finds a lane and he just kind of gets there. He runs downhill. He runs hard. Big physical quarterback. But I think Love coming back opens up. Maybe gives him just a little more confidence. And, hey, I don't have to go after my first progression. I don't have to look for a spot and try to run. I can go through the second read. I can go through the third read. And then if it's not there, I take it. That offense, I think, much more balanced with Love, obviously. Now they're a 3-headed rushing attack instead of 2. What Freeman has done as a coach is remarkable. I love this guy. If I could handpick him to be the coach of my football team, I would take him in a heartbeat. Love, love, love the guy. There were a lot of people critical of them after the Northern Illinois game. I was in that mix. But they have improved every single week since that loss. And you and I talked after that loss. We played the other side of Northern Illinois the next week. We played the Buffalo side and get an outright win as a dog. What Freeman was able to do, there was a lot of coaches in that same position. Had they lost to a team like Northern Illinois, would have lost control of their team. It would have been a 2 or 3 loss skid. It would have, just there was no chance, very little chance. There were many coaches that could have taken a loss like that and still made a playoff and ultimately a championship run. Guy's tough as nails. He has a quarterback that's tough as nails. This is a really tough football team. Defensively, that's been what they've done well. When they've had success, it's because of that defense. Indiana, 63 rushing yards. Georgia, 62. Penn State, you mentioned. Penn State ran the ball all over them. They are the anomaly there. What Notre Dame has done defensively through the air, Indiana had 152 yards. 126 of the 270. Sorry, 155 rushing yards allowed the first 55 minutes. And then they have the long 75-yard drive where he throws for, I think, 70 of the 75. They get the onside kick. And he throws for 50-something in the last drive there. Throws for 120 yards in garbage time where Notre Dame, I'm not saying they're not playing with any effort, but minimal effort at that point. You're up four scores, zero pressure, not focused, not locked in. This was a Notre Dame team, Penn State and Aller, much improved passing offense throughout the entire season. That would have been their Achilles heel for a long time. They were able to run the ball, but they struggled through the air. It's a Notre Dame secondary that's really, really good. It's a Notre Dame front that can put pressure. It's an Ohio State offense that's probably playing as efficient as anyone in college football in the last 3 weeks, and probably if you take out the Michigan game, probably the last half of the season. That was an anomaly there in the Michigan. Good defense, but still kind of anomalic. This will come down, I think, to Ohio State's ability to pass the football, which no one has been able, at least in the playoffs, to slow them down. If Notre Dame can winning the turnover battle, typically, you go back, you win the game. If they can force, my number is 2. If they force 2 turnovers, I think they win the game. If they force a turnover, I think they cover the number. That number was flirting over double digits there pretty early. I thought that was high. Anything over 7.5, I was a fan of. 8 now with the 2-point conversions is a little more important number than it has been historically. But I thought anything north of 8 was too much. This was a Notre Dame team that I think will take enough pride that they're going to make a game of it into the fourth quarter. Ohio State and Ryan Day, they've been clicking, but I'm going to trust, what our model has, which was just under a touchdown or right around a 1-possession game. So anything north of 7.5, I was okay with taking, and we'll have to see. Total, our projected total there in between 48 and 49, says it's a 30 to 24, 30 to 21 would be around the line and the total there. So total's not too far out of whack. This will be a defensive game, I think. Offensively, Ohio State. My only concern here with playing Notre Dame is that Ohio State gets out to a big lead like Penn State, and then they can just keep the pedal down. It's an offense that you really don't want to get into a track meet with. It's a Notre Dame offense. It's not built to go super fast and score quick. If they get down 2 possessions, it's going to be hard for them to get back. But I think they keep this close. I do think Freeman will have a game plan ready for Ryan Day. Ryan Day, he'll have that offense ready if there. If Howard doesn't turn the ball over, and he's had a couple of games where he's made some really poor decisions with the football, if he avoids an interception, they win the game. I do think Notre Dame's defense will keep him in, and I think the number there at around 10 or north of 10, I think Notre Dame is the side.
If I told you Ryan Leonard and the offense, A, does not turn the ball over, B, Jeremiah Love runs for 135 plus, you would say the final score would be
28-27 Notre Dame.
Because it's the shiny new toy. It's, again, we visualize what they did to the Vols, what they did to the Ducks, and then the scoreboard, they scoop and score. I mean, the perfect bounce, they win by 14, but Texas, with less than 4 minutes to go, was about to tie that game up. We would have now seen the pressure side of Will Howard versus, it's easy to play from out front. It's when you get that, there's 3.5 minutes to go and we're in a tie ball game, a la Drew Allen. What do I do here with 47 seconds left? So it's going to be interesting. Let's change.
You mentioned the Oregon game. When you factor in sacks, it was negative 23. If you just looked at the box score, minus 23 total rushing yards, they held that Oregon team, including sacks. 21 if you adjust and take away the sack yardage. But through the air, 300 yards, roughly 299, I think they ended the game with. 145 of those came in the last 2 drives when it's a 42-10, or can't recall the score right now. The game is out of whack. What they did defensively in that Oregon game was probably as impressive as any of the performances in the playoffs. Texas was able to move the ball through the air. They were not able to run the ball. My fear or concern in Ohio State jumping out to a big lead is is that Notre Dame's not able to run the ball in the first couple of drives, and then Ohio State converts and scores, and then you've got a 10-0 game, into the first quarter, and Notre Dame's back's against the wall. If Jeremiah Love and that team is able to rush as a team, I think 150 is a number that I look for. If they can get 150 as a team, this should be a competitive game. If Notre Dame holds them under 100, I'm probably on the wrong side. And, Sharp, nationally you hear Sharp side on the Buckeyes. I have a number of friends that I consider extremely sharp that are on Notre Dame. A game like this, you're going to find sharps and squares on both sides. One game, single game performance, it's not the end of your handicapping life if you miss. But I do think if Notre Dame as a team goes for 150, that's the key number. They can get over 150 collectively. I think they're at least in this game in the last couple of drives, which would tell me that Notre Dame would be the side that covers.
As I'm watching college hoops progress, Alec Caravan had never missed 2 free throws in his life. Of course, Clank. I saw right after the timeout, he clanks the first one. It was jacked up, and he didn't, whatever. It spilt milk again. Life without Liam McNeely here, as we're going to have a couple more weeks without him. There, but you know what I'm really starting to see, Tyler, is we're going to end up come conference championship, and then you're going to get your brackets. We're going to have a list 10 deep that can cut these nets down. And I know there's some teams up top. We saw what happened to Tennessee last week. Everyone's ready to anoint Florida. You talked about the SEC 10, 11 deep. I haven't heard one person on social media, and they'll start talking now, talk about Missouri. I watch that kid. They just out-hustled, out-rebound, everything in the swamp. Were you shocked? I hope you had Missouri last night.
I had no side in the game, but I was not shocked. No, that's back-to-back performances by Missouri. This is a conference, night in and night out. It's going to be really hard to win on the road, for one. But, what Missouri was able to do last night, you have to, I took a step back. LSU, South Carolina, Missouri, and Vandy were the 4 teams that I didn't have, at least in serious contention, to make the tournament. We talked, I think, a week or two ago that the SEC potentially could get anywhere from 10 to 12 teams. 10 probably, I think they're good. Anything more than that, they're going to need some things to happen in the tiebreaker category with some other teams. It's a Florida team that's really, really good offensively. They showed that they're capable defensively against a Tennessee team that's mediocre or just above, I think, offensively. It's a Missouri team. Great win last night. LSU has been one of the teams that's been labeled, the weaker teams of the conference. Solid win at home last night against, it's an Arkansas team preseason. Had a lot of hype, obviously, with John Calipari taking the job. A boatload of 5-star talent. He had a number of transfers from Kentucky, a number of guys that he had recruited at Kentucky that made the trip with him to Fayetteville. I would be lying if I said it didn't make me feel really good to say, if you're an Arkansas fan right now, 0-3 start, unranked now, and just winning 2 out of 3 games right now, about a third of the way through the season or whatever. Arkansas can still make the tournament. The season's not over yet. If they play anything like they have the first 3 games of conference play, their season is over. They're not going to make the NCAA tournament, and they may not make the NIT. This is a team that's really struggled. They were one of the teams in that 10 that we had thought were going to make the dance. Now I think you have to give serious consideration to a team like Missouri. That's maybe taking Arkansas's spot and you're moving Arkansas down. This is a conference that's really, really good. Big East, really, really good. Big Ten, really good. Basketball this year maybe as balanced as I would have to go back and look. It's in recent memory. This is one of the more balanced, at least starts to a season that I've seen. I've seen a number of teams that are around 40 to 50 in my power rating. 1 possession underdogs neutral against teams that are in my top 15. Typically in years past, that's a multiple possession type of neutral spread. So and some of that, I don't know how much of that is a testament to the NIL transfer portal. I think probably those together cumulatively have played a small role, at least, in equaling the talent. I'm excited about this March Madness. The last couple of years, I know that you're day in and day out in the UConn talk. I've thought for the last couple of years that going into the tournament that there just wasn't anyone that was going to beat them. Last 2 years, been lucky to have. 2 years ago, a little different story. Had a little bigger ticket on UConn, at least odds wise. Last year, they were a much smaller favorite. This year, if you let me pick 6 teams right now against the field, I don't know that I feel comfortable. I mean, I don't know how, I don't know what the number would be where I would just say, yeah, I like my side of it. I mean, I would probably pick 6 and not feel like too bad, but I feel like I'm still a significant underdog, 6 against the field. You mentioned, 10, 12 teams. When we get down to the tournament, yeah, I mean, there's probably still after that first weekend when we get to the Sweet 16 or round of 32, there's probably still 10 teams of the 32 that are capable of winning. It's wide open this year. You've seen Duke improve. We've seen, what Cooper Flagg, a lot of criticism there in that Kentucky loss with, some people questioning his kind of moxie and makeup. I think he's proved to a lot of people that was just kind of a one-off kid, historic performance as a freshman there against Notre Dame the other day. Notre Dame looks as good as anyone. They just took over the number 1 spot in my power rating. So they're the team to beat right now. UConn better. You mentioned Caravan. That was a tough I was on the wrong side of that game pre-flop and then got lucky and bought a 2.5 live when they were down 5 with about 6 minutes left, or I don't know, a couple of outside the 4 media timeout. I got lucky and took a 2.5 to lose a little juice. Felt lucky. That felt like winning big in that one. But yeah, you're going to see good teams lose this year. Connecticut, one of those teams. Gonzaga, we've seen them lose. Tennessee, number 1 team in the country, down by almost 40 at one point. You don't see that year in and year out where top teams, top number 1 in this particular instance, down by 40 to a good team, another top 10 team. But those just aren't things that you've been able to say the last 10 or 15 years. College basketball, I think, really healthy. College football coming off of obviously the first year of the playoff, the expanded playoff. College sports right now, a lot of people have been pretty critical of the NIL and all of these things, that it's just taken away from the sport and that it's turned into, it's turned into minor league. And maybe it is. But what I've seen on the court and on the field for this year so far, for going back to August of 24 and then hopefully through mid-April, what I've seen at least on the field and on TV and luckily some in person, this has been as good a sports year for collegiate sports as I can ever remember.
I 100%. And just the more and more I'm watching, the more I'm digging into numbers. Alabama lose at home. In what world do you ever remember an overnight number of Kansas catching 6.5 at Iowa State? Now, of course, there's only one way that number can go down, and that is I'm seeing some 5s, 5.5s now. It'll be interesting to see what the Cyclones could do. Let me ask you about that final question here. I don't want to say I was sleeping on the wheel, but the start of the year on Iowa State and where they're ranked, and it'll be a good test. I'm not that high on the Jayhawks as most people were. They've struggled here and there. And thoughts on, were you that high on Iowa State this year?
Preseason, no. They're inside the top 10 in my power rating now. I've got them at 8th. Kansas now outside of the top 10 in my rating. I have them 12th. Kansas, they've kind of flip-flopped. It was a Kansas team that I thought deserved to be in, obviously, national title talk. They returned a lot, got a lot in the recruiting. But this is an Iowa State team. No, I was not high on. I was lucky and played Iowa State against Texas Tech. Felt like I stole there at the end of that one. It's an Iowa State. I have that number tonight. I have Iowa State 4.1. I've got 74 470 projected, so a bit off at least from where that number opened. It's a Kansas team. Yeah, there are a couple of head scratchers there for self. It's an Iowa State team, really, really well coached. They're a really, really strong team defensively. They can get up and down the court. They can score. But no, this was an Iowa State team. Kind of took me a little bit by surprise. Started the season well outside my top 15 in the power rating. First couple of games, they inched up. But, yeah, after that win against Texas Tech now inside the top 10, and one of, I think, maybe the favorite to win the conference right now. Kansas still there. A number of other teams. Baylor still, I think, good. Took a big – that was a tough – Arizona's been as up and down as anyone. That number made no sense to me. At 5, recency bias, a lot of people will point to. This is an Arizona team that in the last couple of games has figured a lot of things out. They had talent-wise, every game just about they were going to have the edge in talent, and they were losing games to teams that they had no, or at least that I could come up with no explanation on why they should lose. Baylor going to Arizona there, big loss. But Baylor, one of those teams in the Big 12, I think you have to take a serious look at. Iowa State, I think the most complete team right now. Whether or not that's true, in February and into March, we'll have to wait and see. But that team right now, I think, at least in my opinion, the favorite to win the Big 12.
Mickey Cronin has lost the team, the demise of the Bruins, and I've been watching them closely, and wow, he's struggled at halftime. Teams have made some great adjustments against the Bruins, and whatever Mick has done at halftime has not shown up. They've been just getting boat raced in the second half. It'll be interesting to see how their season ends up. Tyler, everyone knows, obviously, at Tyler Wyatt Bets, at Odds Culture. What is Odds Culture?
Yeah, so it started out, it was a venture by a friend of mine, Jeremy Culture, a guy that lives in Vegas, good friend of mine, plays some poker. It was originally just designed to be an apparel company, sports gambling, sports betting, apparel primarily. Sort of dabbled into content early. He and I, kind of formed a partnership and agreed to work out, a deal there. And, going forward, it's still going to be an apparel-based company. We're going to have a ton of new stuff here at the beginning of 2025, but you can, basically anything that you want on a shirt, gambling-wise, we'll have. But it'll also be a place that you can go just to find some short-form content. We'll do a little bit of picks and stuff. There will be never anything paid for. No, it's not going to be. I'm not going to tout anything. It'll all be free. But yeah, it's a bunch of guys that are like-minded, the guys that I don't want to say degenerate, but it's a term of endearment, at least in my circle. But yeah, it's just a bunch of guys that like to gamble who got together and will eventually put out a bunch of sports betting apparel and things that you can get on and purchase. And ultimately, we have some customization options on the website. You can get on and do your own thing. But yeah, Odds Culture will hopefully in the next couple of months we'll have. As we get into probably looking more towards college football season, will be fully in place. We'll have a landing spot just to kind of go read some sports betting content, get some picks and kind of analysis for some games. I'll have my model that is just kind of on my computer and server and a couple other guys that I work with. We'll have that implemented into the site so that you can just go and see where our number is on any given game. You won't have to do a couple other radio spots around the country. Normally I'll just say, there's a game you're thinking about, shoot me a message and I'll shoot you what I got. We'll have that implemented in the site so you can just go and click and find the game that you're looking for. We'll have all the data there. You can go through and read at your leisure, and then hopefully make, hopefully an informed and profitable decision. Yeah, so Odds Culture in 2025 kind of just be a meeting place for gamblers, sports bettors, degenerates, and those of the like.
Go follow Tyler at Tyler Wyatt Bets at Odds Culture. Big things coming for Odds Culture in 2025. Tyler, thank you so much. Go crack some aces, and we'll catch up with you next Wednesday, same time. We'll talk about a recap of the national championship game, and of course, then we'll start really digging into the hardwood.
Looking forward to it, JD.
Take care. Tyler Wyatt, go follow him. Elijah, one quick commercial break, and we'll wrap it up. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app. Got Elijah Cox, the best in the business, behind the glass, working overtime. Apologies there, Elijah. We got a late start and we're actually a few minutes over. That's on me. I owe you a few minutes there. Shout out to Brady Kannon at Las Vegas Golfers. We talked the AMEX. We talked a little golf from last night, of course. And as we are now back into the States at La Quinta in California there. And of course, Tyler WYATT. Go follow him at Tyler WYATT Bets and the Odds Culture. I brought up Odds Culture because we're going to do a lot of work with Tyler moving forward with the apparel company and his platform, and try to draw a lot of attention. He's got a spreadsheet second to none, and I want that to get visible out into our lanes. I think it could help a lot of people. Busy day here today. 5 o'clock, the closing bell with Riley Magnuson. 6:30, Brady Tinker. We're going to talk Cowboys. Is prime time coming to Dallas? And he's does a lot of work with the Cowboys and the Chiefs. So we're going to talk Chiefs right down in Elijah's lane there, as Elijah will be at the game on Saturday. It will be 30 days since Mahomes took a snap. So looking forward to the Chiefs. And then 7:30, Live Zone will be here. CJ and Kyle will be talking, I think, some hardwood tonight. So from good friend, Mr. Elijah Cox, thank you so much. Everyone else, see you back at 5 o'clock Eastern. Stay tuned.